Imagine like taking a pen, right? Just sketching out this vague idea for a massive supply chain software platform on a bar napkin on a Friday night. And then, I mean, by Monday morning, it's a fully coded, QA-tested, globally deployed enterprise system.
Right?
No engineers, no project managers, none of those endless agile sprints. Just, you, the napkin, and the weekend.
Sounds totally absurd, honestly. It sounds exactly like science fiction.
Yeah, totally.
But, according to the documentation we're looking at today, that level of instantaneous execution is, well, it's no longer theoretical.
Right.
It is the new baseline.
Right, it's happening. And that brings us to the date. I want you, listening right now, to really lock in on today's date. It is April 6th, 2026. And we are looking at this brand new white paper. It's titled The Last Window, along with, some really heavily discussed excerpts regarding something called the human leverage crisis.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Exactly. And this framework developed by a group called EON AI Ventures. So our mission for this deep dive is to understand this monumental shift in human productivity that is literally happening right this second.
I know.
Yeah.
It is highly time sensitive, and we're going to explore not just like what is changing, but exactly how you can position yourself before the rules rewrite themselves yet again.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this.
Yeah, we have to. Because it really is a critical moment. I mean, we are sitting at a very unique, very fragile pivot point in economic history right now.
Yeah.
To really grasp the magnitude of what EON AI Ventures is proposing, we have to, we kind of have to look at the friction that used to define our world just a few years ago.
Let's talk about that friction. Let's look at the pre-2026 world, which honestly, it feels like a lifetime ago, even though it was, basically yesterday.
Seriously.
We're so used to the heavy, like physical drag of building things.
Yeah.
If you wanted to build that supply chain software in 2024, the idea, the napkin sketch was maybe, what, 5% of the battle?
If that. Right. If that. The other 95% was pure friction. You had to go out and secure venture capital. You had to hire highly specialized engineers, deal with endless alignment meetings.
Oh, the meetings.
The meetings. Squashing bugs, managing product rollouts over months or even years. I mean, you were just completely bottlenecked by the sheer financial and temporal weight of execution.
And that friction, it acted as a natural filter, right?
Right.
It dictated who got to participate in the economy of innovation.
Yeah.
You basically needed institutional backing to get anything off the ground.
Yeah, you needed a massive team.
Exactly. But the white paper outlines how artificial general intelligence, or AGI, has fundamentally eradicated that execution friction.
Wow.
We are no longer talking about AI as a co-pilot that just helps you write a line of code a little faster.
Right, not just autocomplete.
No, not at all. We are talking about autonomous systems that can design complex data architectures, decompose incredibly dense logic problems, and, well, execute full-scale build pipelines without any human intervention.
So, I mean, if the machine can write years of code in a single weekend, the problem isn't getting the code written anymore.
Precisely.
The new problem is knowing if the code is actually worth writing in the first place. And that seems to be exactly what this human leverage crisis is actually referring to.
You hit the nail on the head. For centuries, human leverage meant multiplying your physical or your computational labor.
Right.
You bought a tractor to do the work of 10 men, or you hired 100 developers to build a platform faster. But now, execution is a commodity. It is virtually free and instantaneous.
That's just wild to think about.
It is. The crisis, or, well, the severe bottleneck we now face is human judgment. The system is just entirely starving for direction.
It's less like managing a traditional construction site, I guess, and more like being the conductor of an orchestra where the instruments literally play themselves.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
Like, you don't need to know the fingering for a trumpet. You don't need to know how to hold a violin bow. But if you don't know exactly what emotion the symphony is supposed to evoke, or, when the tempo needs to shift to keep the audience engaged...
The orchestra is just going to produce mathematically perfect noise.
Exactly. Mathematically perfect noise. The value is no longer in the playing. It's entirely in the direction. It's like having an army of master builders who can construct a skyscraper in a day, but they are all just standing around waiting for someone to hand them a blueprint.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. The machine has infinite execution power, but zero intrinsic motivation and zero lived human context.
Right.
It requires your blueprint. And we saw exactly what happens when that blueprint is provided just, a few days ago. The white paper anchors a massive part of its thesis on an event that took place on March 31st, 2026.
Oh, the claw code event.
Yes, the Claw Code event.
Literally last week, since today is April 6th. And the claim surrounding this event is just staggering. I mean, the source material states that during this claw code event, AGI achieved the equivalent of years of human engineering output in hours.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to push back on this a little bit, or at least ask about the actual mechanics of it, because when people hear that, they just imagine a human typing a prompt like, build me a killer logistics app, hitting enter and then going to sleep while the computer just magically invents something out of thin air.
Right.
Was it really that hands-off? Didn't someone still have to manage the process?
No, it wasn't hands-off at all, and that is a crucial distinction to make. What's fascinating here is how EON AI Ventures frames their central thesis, which is human intelligence sets the direction, machine intelligence executes.
Okay.
But setting direction in this context, it doesn't mean offering a vague conversational prompt like you just described. The human involved in the Claw Code event had to provide incredibly rigorous boundary conditions.
Okay, meaning what exactly? What does a boundary condition even look like if they aren't actually writing the code?
It means defining the exact failure states, the core logic trees, and, well, the structural constraints of the problem. Think of it as high-level systems architecture, but using pure logic rather than programming syntax.
Oh, I see.
The human defined the what and the why with such exhaustive clarity that the AGI could traverse the entire execution landscape without ever needing to stop and ask for clarification.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this, the human isn't writing the Python or the C++ on. They are acting more like the philosopher of the system.
Yes.
They're saying, like, the system must prioritize data privacy over processing speed in the specific node, and if the external server fails, the fallback must be this exact sequence to preserve user trust.
Exactly. They're constraint mapping. The human brings the real-world needs and the lived context things the machine simply does not possess.
Right, the machine doesn't know what user trust actually feels like.
Exactly. Once the human mapped those constraints, the AGI handled the how instantaneously. It generated the microprocesses, the syntax, the pull requests, and the security audits at a scale and speed that is just impossible for human biology to match.
Which, I mean, that exposes a massive societal risk here, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
If we have this unbelievable execution engine, but we lack the people trained to think in terms of rigorous constraint mapping,
Right.
we are going to have machines flawlessly executing terrible ideas at light speed.
That is the essence of the crisis. We have an overabundance of execution capability and a severe deficit of human direction.
Yeah.
The individuals who can bridge that gap, who can rigorously translate their domain expertise into clear logic constraints, they're suddenly wielding unprecedented economic power.
But wait, let's play this out practically. If execution is totally democratized and literally anyone with a good idea and clear logic can build enterprise-grade software overnight, doesn't this just mean the market is about to get flooded with millions of garbage products? Like, if there's no barrier to entry, how does an individual actually stand out in a sea of infinite machine-generated software?
That is the exact paradox the white paper addresses. And it introduces a pretty sobering reality. This period we are in right now, it is a temporary anomaly. They call it the AGI-ASI transition, or more bluntly, the last window.
The last window.
That sounds ominous.
It is a bit. You stand out right now by moving faster and with more hyper-specific accuracy than legacy institutions, because you don't have to wait for board approval or coordinate a 100-person engineering team.
Right.
A single domain expert can identify a niche problem, build a flawless solution using AGI, and capture that market share before a larger, slower company even schedules their first synchronization meeting.
So you are effectively a one-person Fortune 500 company if you strike now.
You are. But there is a ticking clock. The window is closing because Artificial Superintelligence ASI is emerging.
Right, because AGI is general intelligence. It can execute any task you give it, provided you give it the blueprint. But ASI is the next leap. It's an intelligence vastly smarter than the best human brains in practically every field.
Yes. And the fundamental difference there is autonomy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the white paper warns that as ASI takes hold, the locus of problem solving will shift away from human intelligence entirely.
Oh, wow.
It will move to autonomous machine intelligence. The machine won't wait for your logic map or your carefully defined constraints. It will observe the global supply chain, recognize the inefficiency itself, invent a novel solution, and deploy it autonomously.
Oh, wow. So right now, the machine still absolutely needs our blueprint. But ASI won't even need us to point it in the right direction.
Not at all.
It will just, like, look at the empty dart lot, realize a hospital serves the city's data profile better than a skyscraper, draw the blueprint itself, and then just build it.
Exactly. Which means the economic concentration mechanism happening right now is critical to understand. If you establish your venture, your platform, or your market dominance during this last window, you lock in the economic upside. You capture the territory.
Right.
The white paper explicitly warns that economic control will permanently concentrate in the hands of whoever builds these frameworks before ASI takes over. Because once ASI can set its own direction, the premium on human judgment crashes to zero.
Yeah.
Just like the premium on human coding has crashed today.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This is a gold rush, but the gold is about to learn how to mine itself.
That is a great way to put it.
Right now, your lived experience, your specific human perspective is the only pickaxe that works. If you don't stake your claim before the autonomous machines flood the field, you are entirely locked out. The latecomers won't just be behind. They won't even be allowed in the mine.
It brings an intense urgency to the present moment. The barrier to entry has never been lower, but the cost of inaction has never been higher.
Okay, I feel the ticking clock. That is legitimately terrifying, but also, incredibly thrilling if you actually know what to do.
Yes, exactly.
So what is the actual playbook? How do you, the person listening to this on their commute or while making breakfast, actually ride this wave before it crashes? The source talks about the human leverage curve and this very specific framework from EON AI Ventures. Walk me through the actual mechanics of this. How do we use it?
Well, the human leverage curve is a visual model showing how individual impact goes completely vertical when historical execution barriers are removed.
Okay.
And to help individuals ride that vertical curve, EON AI Ventures has built a methodology around 3 necessary cognitive shifts. 3 steps for the user. Identify, translate, deploy.
Identify, translate, deploy.
Got it. It requires you to stop thinking like a doer of tasks and start thinking like a translator of reality.
Okay, let's ground this so we really understand the how. Let's say I have worked in regional shipping logistics for 20 years.
Okay, good example.
I'm not a tech person, but I know exactly why trucks get backed up at a specific port in Los Angeles every single Tuesday. It's a hyper niche problem, but it costs the industry millions of dollars. How do I use EON's 3 steps?
Okay, so step 1 is identify. This is where your 20 years of lived experience is irreplaceable. The AGI doesn't know what it feels like when a shipping manifest is delayed by 3 hours, causing a cascading failure of driver fatigue, union overtime rules, and spoiled cargo.
Right, it has no idea about union rules or driver fatigue.
Exactly. It lacks the biological and contextual friction of reality. You have identified a problem worth solving precisely because you have lived the pain of it.
Okay, so I know the pain point intimately, but I still don't know how to code a routing algorithm to fix it.
And that leads directly to step 2. Translate. This is where EON's specific tools come in, and this is really where the magic happens. You don't need to write code. EON uses dynamic constraint mapping tools. You sit down with the interface, and you build out the logic. You input the rules. Like, if a truck is delayed by more than 2 hours at the port, and the driver is within 45 minutes of their legal driving limit, the system must autonomously reroute the cargo to a local holding facility and instantly alert the client.
So I am just plainly stating the rules of my industry, the constraints of the workers, and the ideal outcome.
Yes, but you are stating them rigorously. You are translating your human insight into actionable AGI specifications. You are defining the edges of the sandbox.
Right, the boundary conditions we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And once you map those constraints, the AGI tool instantly generates the millions of lines of code required to integrate with GPS systems, union databases, and client communication protocols. It builds the architecture overnight, based entirely on your human logic.
Which is just mind-blowing to think about. I mapped the logic, the AGI built the software. And that leaves step 3, deploy.
Right. Now you deploy it to global markets with immense speed and scalability.
Yeah.
You scale a solution that solves that specific logistics bottleneck, not just in Los Angeles, but in Rotterdam, Singapore, and Hamburg.
Wow.
Because the execution was essentially free, scaling it globally is practically free. You have turned a localized human insight into a massive global software venture in a matter of days.
That cognitive shift from doer to translator is massive.
Yeah.
We have spent our entire lives being valued for our ability to do the work, to grind out the execution.
Yeah.
Now we have to value ourselves entirely on our ability to observe, judge, and translate our reality into rigorous rules for a machine.
And that is exactly what EON AI Ventures is facilitating.
Yeah.
They are democratizing the ability to translate insight into infrastructure. This raises an important question, though. What problems are you uniquely positioned to identify? What do you see that a machine might miss without your direction? Because again, this only works while the machine still relies on us to identify the friction.
Right. So what does this all mean? Let's pull all these threads together. The old world of slow, heavy, incredibly expensive execution is dead.
Completely.
We saw undeniable proof of that with the Claw Code event on March 31st, where AGI compressed years of complex engineering into hours of automated output. The bottleneck has radically shifted. It is no longer about how to build things. The absolute rarest commodity on the market today is human direction. Rigorous, constraint-mapped human judgment.
Yes. And we are living inside the last window. We are in that brief, highly volatile transition space between AGI, which requires our blueprints, and ASI, which will eventually draw its own.
Yeah.
Individual human leverage is at an all-time peak right now, but the curve will flatten out again once autonomy takes over.
Which means for you listening right now, this deep dive isn't just passive information. This isn't just an interesting tech update to casually think about over coffee. This is a mandate.
It really is.
You have unique lived experience. You see inefficiencies, frustrations, and missing solutions in your daily life and your specific industry that machines simply cannot see because they don't live your life. EON AI Ventures has given us a framework, identify, translate, deploy, to capture the value of your specific judgment before the window closes. You have to use your pickaxe now while it's still required to mine the gold.
It is a profound shift in what it means to contribute to the economy. But it does leave us with a rather haunting question to consider as this transition accelerates.
No.
The white paper establishes with absolute clarity that right now human direction is the ultimate currency. We set the logic, we define the constraints, and the machine builds reality. But if we project to the inevitable end of this last window, when artificial superintelligence eventually emerges and assumes control of not just the execution, but the problem solving and the direction setting as well, what becomes the core currency of human value then? Once the machines no longer need us to translate our reality for them, what is the next great human bottleneck?
Now that is the trillion-dollar question, and it's exactly what you should be thinking about as you navigate this wild new landscape. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. The rules of leverage have flipped. Trust your judgment, stake your claim while the window is still open, and keep exploring.